stories that we tell ourselves. I mean, here's a little example. Right now in the West, if you read the newspapers, if you look at the media, the story is basically, as I said earlier, that we're in a state of now collapse. We're paying the price for everything we've done in the past that was wrong. Our economy's in collapse, our environment's collapsing, everything's going wrong, everything's heating up, the planet's becoming inhospitable to human life, potentially. That's the current story. I mean, I watch the news every night and it's hard going, man, you know, it's like, it's horror story stuff, and we never really get to hear the stories about little ducks being born and all the cool stuff. But right, imagine we're living in this story right now, everything's bad, there's war, everyone's dying, kids are harming themselves. Let me tell you a different version of the story, and some of the people who've read My Invisibles may be familiar with this. Right, but just as a potential, imagine this was the story instead. The reason all this is happening is because we are all one organism. There's one organism on this planet. It's made out of stuff that came out of stars. The stars came out of the Big Bang in the current model. But basically everything came from the same place. All the particles in your body were present in the first moment of Planck time when the universe was created. Everything in this room was there. It's been here for billions of years. It's part of us. It's in a constant state of exchange. So it's a living thing. This planet Earth is one living thing. If you think about time, you can trace all of us back through those doors, out of this convention, back through all of our lives, back to our homes, back to being 10 years old, back to being 2 years old, back to being 1 year old, back to disappearing in your mother's womb. And she continues the trail back, and it goes all the way back to the first mitochondrial DNA 3.5 billion years ago in the ocean. It's the same thing. That mitochondrial DNA is still dividing in every single cell of your body. So imagine, all the bad stuff you've been told is actually, there's not a lot of us, we're not all here fighting one another. We're part of a single organism, and it's a really beautiful organism. It's well designed because it was made to eat itself, to stay alive. That's what it does. The whole organism can consume itself, cannibalize itself, and still grow. Animals eat each other, we eat animals, we exchange energy. Imagine it's one thing. There aren't nations. Nations are just an illusion of this thing that's too young to realise what it is. It's a single entity. We're all its fingers, we're all its little bits. Imagine an arm with the fingers, and imagine them all painted different colours fighting one another. They're fucking stupid, right? The only reason you would do that is because you don't know what you are. So imagine this is the story. The entity that lives on the planet Earth is very young. It's developing, it's not aware of what it is yet. It's only starting to become aware. People like us are starting to become aware and think about it. That maybe there is one thing. What if there's only one thing? What if it's very young? And what we are seeing on the planet Earth is the process of its development and growth, its evolution. It's a gigantic, multi-cellular organism with billions of eyes, billions of mouths, billions of minds. We are the cortex of this creature because we are particularly good at taking in information, processing it, and using it. But dogs are the smell centres for that entity because dogs smell really good. Every part of it is experiencing its own existence on the planet Earth. Right, we think the environment's been destroyed. Well, look at a caterpillar on a leaf. If you watch the caterpillar on a leaf, it would seem to be destroying the very environment that gives it life. But it's not. What it's doing is powering its metamorphosis to become a butterfly. So imagine global warming is actually an incubation process for something that's about to be heated up to maturity. And what we are seeing now, the internet, the increased connectivity of the planet is actually its own dawning self-awareness. And there will come a moment very soon where things are hot enough and fast enough and strange enough and severe enough, in the same way that when you hit adolescence you're flooded with all kinds of hormones, you go crazy, you don't know who you are anymore. Imagine this singular entity, which is all of us right now, is going through the same process and it's fighting itself. It doesn't know, what am I, what the hell am I, what am I here for, what am I doing? And it's about to happen. Imagine very soon, imagine you're living on a planet which is about to give birth to a hyper entity, which is growing. That's a different story. All the same shit's still here, there's still wars, there's still global warming, there's still seeming environmental devastation. But imagine that seeming environmental devastation is what's meant to happen. The organism's here, it feeds on the planet Earth and on the resources because they're also part of it. And then potentially it might leave the planet, it could go into hyperspace, the planet Earth will recover. You know, one of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves as human beings is that the planet needs us to save it. We are the planet. The planet doesn't need saving. The planet has had mass extinctions that have wiped out 99% of terrestrial life in the past. The planet shrugs it off and makes new things. When we're gone, it will make new things. So what we should really be is think about not being gone, but being part of that process, and stop trying to fight that process, stop trying to fight one another, stop being the hand that's trying to grasp itself and crush itself, and recognise that, okay, we're this thing now, and things are about to change. There's a different story. It might not be true, but what if it is? Everything changes if you tell a different story.